Hello, students. Welcome to the continuation of Mughal Empire. Last class, we talked about three great Mughal emperors, right? The first one, the founder, the Babur, and then his son Humayun, and his son Akbar. Akbar is the great one. We talked about those three. This class, we'll be talking about just three great ones. And after that, then comes the smaller ones. Then the empire disintegrated due to British. And now we're going to see those three people, write down their names. So Akbar's son Jahangir. Jahangir is called the world conqueror Jahangir. And his son Shah Jahan, king of the world, Shah Jahan. And his son Aurangzeb, okay, Caesar of the world, who seizes the world. All these guys have the world in their name. You see, megalomania. Now, let's talk about Jahangir. Jahangir, by the way, the first time the British came to India, they came to the court of Jahangir. Jahangir was so wealthy that the British were in awe of his wealth, and they asked for permission to have trade with India, and Jahangir gave the permission. Right? They came as merchants, East India Company. We'll see that in the next lecture. But now let's focus on Jahangir. Okay, Jahangir was very fond of, even at a young age, fond of opium and alcohol. Yes, that's the vice of the Mughals. Many of the previous ones had that, and it has spoiled them. But Jahangir, it affected his life a lot. So Akbar, knowing that his son has this weakness, even locked him up at one point to make sure that he give up that character. Locked him up and didn't give him alcohol or opium. That's like a forced going cold turkey, but it didn't stop him from that. So Akbar didn't see Jahangir as a proper succession to his great kingdom. So he started supporting Jahangir's son and created a divide between them. In fact, Akbar even gave Jahangir's brother, younger brother, the permission to use the red tent. That means only the sovereign, the powerful ruler can only use the red tent in their campaigns anywhere. So they're not going to go and stay at Marriott. They have to put a tent, right, wherever they go, or move away from their kingdom or capital, from their palace. So his younger brother was using the red tent, and Jahangir felt like his father is not going to give the kingdom to him. He's the oldest, and he's not going to have it. And also, I already mentioned Jahangir, Akbar created a wedge, put a wedge between Jahangir and his son. And some nobles started siding with Jahangir's son to take over power, even before Jahangir take over power. Okay? And so Jahangir was very cautious to not go away from the capital whenever Akbar asks him to go and conduct a campaign, military campaign in a faraway place. He will be cautious to leave the capital. Why? Because if he's away from the capital and Akbar dies, because Akbar is getting old, and if he dies, suddenly his younger brother will take over the empire in Jahangir's absence. So Jahangir was worried and didn't want to go and do the Mewar campaign, MEWAR, which Akbar ordered. So, but Jahangir finally gets the empire. Okay, long time he waited because Akbar ruled almost half a century. Akbar lived long and ruled, and when he got it, and he had a whole harem. You know, Akbar also had a harem of like 5,000 women, wives, and Jahangir also had a harem, but he fell in love with a lady in her 30s. By the way, at that time, 30s is an older woman relatively, and and she already had a son as well. The lady Jahangir fell in love, and her name is Noor Jahan, Nurjahan. It is to show, because this woman, oh, okay, I got to switch to another marker. Noor Jahan become his wife, and he was in love with her. At this time, women are not supposed to rule the government, right? Run the government. But Noor Jahan was completely advising Jahangir in all the government procedures. And also, Jahangir had this weakness of drinking alcohol. You know how much he drank? He drank 24 cups of double distilled spirits. That's like raw, stayed up alcohol. 24 cups every day for years. I don't know how this man even was alive or able to do the regular life of day-to-day things. Anyway, Noor Jahan is somebody who's brave and smart. She will go hunting sometimes, and she will take only 6 bullets. One day she took only 6 bullets, and she hunted 4 tigers, grown tigers, because tigers, it's hard to take a shot when it's coming at you. They go hunting in top of an elephant and look for tigers. They crouch and they come at you, and you cannot miss the shot because soon it'll be here, and try to jump all the way to reach to the top of the elephant. She took out 4 tigers with 6 bullets. And so she's not only a sharpshootsman. If you look at a painting of Noor Jahan, if you Google Noor Jahan and look up, she will have a huge musket and standing, not a woman of like dainty figure, but strong strength. And modern leaders, women leaders, take inspiration from her. Entire books have been written on Noor Jahan. So the emperor was so fond of her, when he got weaker and weaker, let her run the government. And she sat there and ran the court, the Mughal court. And also coins were started to be printed on her face on it. Instead of, the emperor is the only one who is in the coins, but now she's on it. And she was giving directions, administrative and governance directions for the administrators to do what to do. Now, meanwhile, the stepson, Noor Jahan did not have son with Jahangir. She was already in her 30s. She did not have son with Jahangir. But Jahangir had a son, Shah Jahan, who is going to come, right? And Shah Jahan is a stepson for Noor Jahan. And they were rivals because Shah Jahan wants to have power. This Mughal emperors started living longer and longer. Their sons become teenagers and then enter their 20s. They want to have power. They want to become the emperor. And your father is staying there for a long time. So they get agitated and started rebelling against the emperors, right? Even Jahangir did that against Akbar. Now, Jahangir's son, Shah Jahan, is doing it. He even took an army and marched against Jahangir. And of course, Jahangir's army, the most stronger one, defeated Shah Jahan's army, and Shah Jahan was on the run. And Jahangir said, send military and catch my son and bring him to me. And Shah Jahan is running from one end of the other end of the empire to ask for help to the small kings to give him support. And along goes who? His wife, Shah Jahan's wife, with her children. Shah Jahan's wife is interesting one because she is the one who the Taj Mahal was built on. Okay, and so she's with Shah Jahan through this tough times, and finally, when Shah Jahan was cornered, the emperor Jahangir sends him a message saying, "Give me 2 of your sons." Okay, 2 of your sons. One is at the age of 10, another one at the age of 8. The one at the age of 10 is called Dara Sukho. Why do we need to remember this name? Because it's going to be a big story. and the another one, 8-year-old, is called Aurangzeb. Yes, that's right, Aurangzeb. That same Aurangzeb. So Dara Sukho is spelled. I'm going to spell it different than what you will see in the next video. This is the most correct way. Dara Sukho was 10-year-old, Aurangzeb 8-year-old. Both were Shah Jahan's children, and Jahangir said, "Give them to me so that they will stay in the palace." Why? As a sign of goodwill, so that Shah Jahan will not again fight Jahangir, because it's like a hostage situation. These children will be kept in the palace, not like going to be treated bad or anything, but to make sure that Shah Jahan never again revolt against Jahangir. Okay, and but these two kids, 8 and 10-year-old, goes and sees the palatial palace and the lifestyle of Jahangir. And so starting in earlier age, both of these kids learn that rivalry is part of the empire, and whoever wins takes everything. They call it winner take all. Whoever wins, like winner take all, like our political process, whoever wins takes everything, and those who don't win end up in the tomb. Yes, in the dead. So war of succession, I'll talk about it soon. And so now he gives away those two children, okay? And Jahangir faces a rival, a strong rival. And who does he face? He faces this fascinating character called Malik Ambar, M-A-L-I-K, Malik Ambar. Second last name is A-M-B-E-R, Malik Ambar. Malik Ambar is an African, an Ethiopian. That's correct. And he was a slave. He was bought in the Arab slave market, brought to India, and one of the minor kings outside Mughal Empire in the south of India. It's called Deccan, D-E-C-C-A-N, Deccan Plateau. If you Google Deccan, it'll show geographically, it's the peninsular region of India. You know, India at the south is tapering. This region, Deccan Plateau. Mughal Empire is mostly in the north, right? And up all the way up to Afghanistan and to Bangladesh, close to Bangladesh, and to Gujarat, but not much in Deccan region. Malik Ambar comes from, he was a slave soldier, just like the Mamelukes, and they were taken in as a slave, fed, clothed, and given military training so that they will protect the master and also work as a soldier in military campaigns, whichever the master wants, which will be a prince or king, right? And finally, when the master dies, he's freed. So Malik Ambar himself become a military man who has his own military. He becomes a warlord, and he fights Jahangir, and he gives a very hard time, never getting captured by Jahangir and by such a mighty military Mughal Empire, fighting this Malik Ambar, and they were not able to capture. By the way, there are still many of those descendants of these black Africans who came to India as slaves are there, and they are Indians. And so that's why we say, when we say India is multi-ethnic, it is really multi-ethnic, multiracial society with different languages. Now, and there's a painting, if you see, of Malik Ambar being painted, standing on the globe top and having an arrow, shooting an arrow on the sheared head of Malik Ambar. He never killed him or anything, but just at least an image portrayed of him showing his anger in the painting that he killed him. Okay, now that was a struggle which Jahangir had. Another one which I wanted to talk about is Sikhism. Sikhism, you know the religion Sikhism, S-I-K-H-I-S-M, Sikhism. These are the ones who wear the turban at the head. Singhs, that's the last name. Okay, good. And the founder's name, the founder comes at the time period where Jahangir was there. Jahangir time period. And the founder's name is Guru Nanak. Guru is Guru. That means teacher. Nanak. Nanak is his real name. N-A-N-A-K. N-A-N-A-K. Nanak. Guru Nanak, it comes from a background called, I've written it down. 1 second. Take notes. You see how much notes. The reason I'm showing you this is take notes, because you will not be able to remember everything for the exam, and you need to write down so that in the 2 hours of exam, you will be asked question 2 or 3 hours that you won't have time to go and watch the video. So write it down. Okay, so Guru Nanak comes from the background. It was, yes, Khatri. It's a community, Khatri. Khatri, Khatri community. And Guru Nanak taught the followers to pray 3 times. Dawn, like sunrise, sunset, end of the day. 3 times, dawn, dusk, and end of the day. 3 times he asked them to pray. There's no caste distinctions. So people who join the gurus, follow the teachings, will not be distinct by like Hinduism, like caste. And Guru Nanak was smart to choose the successor after him, not his family member, but someone who is capable, meritocracy, based on who is capable of running Sikhism. Now, it went like that until Guru Arjun, okay, was executed by Jahangir. Guru Arjun was one of the successor who was executed by Jahangir, not because Jahangir hated Sikhism. No, even though he didn't like Sikhism, it's not why he killed the Sikh guru in power. He killed them because the new guru, whose name is Arjun, A-R-J-U-N, I don't know whether I spelled it for you, Arjun, Guru Arjun, supported a rebel of the state. So it was a political reason rather than religious reason. But when it was killed, the followers were disheartened and didn't have someone to follow. And it was chaotic. So the son of Guru Arjun takes over the responsibility of leading the group, and he has 2 swords. This is when Sikhism becomes martial as well, like militaristic, and in terms of like having a sword. Even now Sikhs are highly represented in Indian military. They're known for bravery, courage. In military ranks, Sikhs are very small percentage of Indian population, but a significant percentage of Indian military is represented by Sikhs. So it happened only after the killing of the Guru Arjun by Jahangir, and the son made it more militaristic in order to protect them. And he also built the fort for them in Amritsar. Okay, he built the fort for them in Amritsar. Now, this was Jahangir's, while getting incapacitated by opium and drinks. Okay, but Jahangir had some good qualities, even though he had many other flaws, which I have already mentioned. One is that this devotion to justice. Remember the Persian ideal of a king? I mentioned that in previous lecture. If you watch, to have wealth in the society, you have to have justice. Good wealth is for good kingdom, army, and army to have. In order to have a good kingdom, you have to have good army. For that, you have to have good wealth. In order for that, you have to have good justice. He was devotion to justice, so he had something called a chain of justice, a chain, quote unquote, chain of justice. He hung this chain, literally a chain, from his palace all the way to the river Jamuna, Jamuna, and it'll have bells in the chain. Anyone who needs justice will come and wiggle the chain, any ordinary person, and will be heard by the emperor, and the justice will be delivered. So they were focused on delivering justice. Okay, now there's there's good things also, many good things apart from the justice that Jahangir did. One another thing is that he continued the interfaith debates, what Akbar did. Christianity, Buddhism, Sikhism, Zoroastrianism. I mean, Sikhism wasn't there when Akbar was there, but all the other religion I mentioned, they had the scholars come and debate, and Akbar listened. Same thing was followed by Jahangir, being open to the ideas of different types of religion rather than them. They are Muslims and being hell bent on following only Islamic literature. And even though he rebelled against his father, Akbar, right, Jahangir, he built a tomb, a very nice tomb for Akbar. Okay, he built a magnificent tomb in Agra for Akbar. Okay, now Jahangir dies of too much alcohol, and in the last, the book describes how when his wife comes to give him a sip of alcohol, he sips and he dies. He asks for it, is dependent on it so much. And now when Shah Jahan, Jahangir dies, Shah Jahan comes in and takes over power. And guess what he does? He kills all the possible people who could take over power. That is, even all his brothers and brothers' sons. Male, only males, not female, can take over power. And ostracized, gives a pension for life and pushes Noor Jahan out. And he becomes this king of the world. Shah Jahan means king of the world. And he's 3/4 Rajput because his wife is Rajput and he also has one half Rajput. He's 3/4 Rajput, even though he is Mughal. Mughal in Persian means Mongol, right? That's from the Mongol steppes. But he's 3/4 Rajput, Indian. Took over the Mughal peak. He took over power in a peak of its glory, the Mughal Empire. Wealth, power, and the culture is incredible. And his wife was always by him, and he loved her. And guess what happens? She dies. And he was heartbroken, completely devastated. And he asks to create a tomb for her, which is the Palatia. First he buries her in a place, and then he goes on building project, which is called Taj Mahal. That's correct. The modern Taj Mahal was a tomb. It is a tomb built for his wife. And it's 11-year project, 5 million rupees then. Because of the income they were making, the peak of the power, they were like about $1 billion they were making in a year. The wealth in England is nothing compared to the Mughal Empire, India's wealth at the time. Okay? In fact, before the British came, India's wealth is about 25% of the world's GDP. That's correct. And the entire Europe will come close to India's, entire Europe, not just England alone, will come close to India's wealth. That is astounding wealth. And he used that to build this marble mausoleum with tomb, like the tomb with the dome structures. Dome. Have you seen Taj Mahal? Obviously, most of you would have. But if you haven't, please Google and look at Taj Mahal with the tomb, which is like heaven, okay, paradise. He wanted to replicate paradise. But in Islam, humility urges tombs to be not built with a tomb, okay, like heaven. And that's why Baburs, which is in Kabul, buried in Kabul, plain, and in Akbar's did not have. Now, Akbar built Humayun a tomb with tomb, but Akbar doesn't have, Jahangir doesn't have a tomb with a dome. Now here comes Shah Jahan, builds his wife, not only one big tomb, but then there's minarets, 4 sides. They also have small domes. So it's like 5 domes. He defied the etiquette or the proper way to build a tomb. And he brought Persian writer to write on the wall, and he did not constrain himself with money. He wants to build the best in the river Jamuna. Okay, and here's an important thing I wanted to discuss about that. We already talked about the fratricide. That means brother killing brother, right? Post Akbar, it started happening, and where winner take all politics, whoever wins takes over the power. There's a wonderful saying, wonderful in sense it's concise way to say it, but it's not like wonderful in terms of what it says. It's sad. It's Persian saying. It's called Ya Takt. I might be pronouncing it wrong, but I'm going to spell it for you. Ya Takt, Ya Takta. That means I will write it down for you. Okay. This means, that means what? It means either the tomb or the throne. You are, if you are the son of a king, you either the tomb or the throne. If you don't get the throne, you're going to get the tomb. That is, whoever wins gets the throne. Whoever doesn't win goes to the tomb, because you will be killed, because they don't want a competition. Even after they take over power, they don't want them to be killed when they're sleeping. So they kill all the ones who could possibly contend for power. Okay, that's a fratricide. Because it is not like the oldest one takes over power. And that created a bloodbath, and it's going to get ugly, very ugly, with Aurangzeb. I'm going to talk about Aurangzeb, who's the son, who's not the oldest son of Shah Jahan, but younger son. The oldest name is Dara Sukho, right? Dara, D-A-R-A. I already spelled it for you. Dara Sukho. Now, Dara Sukho, I read a whole book on Dara Sukho, and it was fascinating, but we don't have time for it. Dara Sukho is a scholar, and he did amazing things. One of the things he did, just like Akbar, he was open to studying Hinduism and different religions, despite being Muslim. In fact, he even translated. He hired somebody to translate Upanishad, the Hindu text, into Persian. Okay, and that Persian text made its way to Europe, which was translated into Latin by an Orientalist scholar, European. Now, the Latin text was studied by Arthur Schopenhauer. For those who know, philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, who created this Enlightenment thinkers, right? One of the great philosophers. He said great about Upanishads, like very, very positive comments about Upanishad. And it even created the thoughts of Arthur Schopenhauer, Upanishad. So he has contributed in many ways, scholarly, but he is not a warrior like his younger brother, Aurangzeb. Okay, Dara Sukho is also arrogant in terms of not treating the noblemen in the palace, in the court of Shah Jahan properly. So they were all wishing him to fail. Okay, now they know there's a strong rivalry between Dara Sukho and Aurangzeb. Anytime Shah Jahan dies, these guys are going to fight it out, and whoever wins is going to get the kingdom. Okay, there are two sisters. One of the sisters supported Aurangzeb, and another one, Jahanara, 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 supported Dara Sukho. Dara Sukho, because he's scholarly, Jahanara sits and talks with him a lot. There's even stories of one time when she get fire on her clothes, her silk clothes. Easily the fire went through her clothes and she was burned, struggling to live. And the emperor was so sad. Shah Jahan, he brought many helps to help. The medics didn't help her well. Finally, one guy was able to give a cream that healed her, and he gave gold about enough at the weight of Jahanara to the guy who cured her or healed her. And now Shah Jahan is getting sick, okay, and weak. Aurangzeb was away in a campaign. He was constantly away. He's from a young age. He was a very peculiar man. Peculiar is not the word to define. Well, he had bravery, strong bravery, obsessive qualities. Okay, I'll demonstrate. I'll show a small story to share a story to make you understand about his bravery. When Shah Jahan was sitting in a balcony and watching two elephants fight, yeah, that's how they're not watching football at the time. They make two elephants fight, and he was sitting and watching. And two of his sons got on the horseback and rode on the ground to see the elephants fight. One of the elephants turns, instead of fighting the other elephant, punches the elephant and turns and marches towards this. Darasuko moves away. Aurangzeb, instead of running away with his horse, he marches. He was 15 at this time. Marches straight to the elephant and uses his spear and throws it at the elephant. Hits the elephant, elephant bleeds, but elephant just keep coming at him and comes and swats him from his horse. He goes, flies and falls, Aurangzeb, right? And the elephant, after pushing the horse away, coming directly at Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb didn't still run, took the sword from his side and waited to fight the elephant. Everyone is watching this, and before that, people came and made noises and made the elephant run away. But Shah Jahan noticed which son is clearly the brave, and the world saw it, which son is brave. Darasuko didn't even move his muscle to help his brother in any way. And he was 17, right? And this guy is 15. It was completely painted in a painting to show Aurangzeb's bravery. And now Shah Jahan knows which one is capable of being a good commander. So Shah Jahan, anytime problem in his province, in his empire, he will send Aurangzeb to go and put down. And he does a great job fighting, and that's all he does. But Aurangzeb, I have to tell you a romantic story. He falls in love with this girl, young girl, who is not the same level of noble society. Someone, well, at the time you had to look for the pedigree. He's royalty, and he had to marry only royalty. But he falls in love with this girl who is an ordinary, as in English would say, commoner, and then he is in so much love that Darasuko even teased him many times that he is not just in love, he teased that he is in love with a commoner, okay? And she even want to see whether Aurangzeb really loves him so much, because Aurangzeb is pious, very religious, and doesn't drink alcohol. Muslims don't drink alcohol. And all the Mughal emperors had a weakness also, so Aurangzeb didn't want to. She wanted to test Aurangzeb whether he will do something that for her, and she will give him a glass of alcohol, and he almost took it, and that shows how much he loved her. But guess what? She dies, and Aurangzeb was heartbroken, and he realizes that he also let his willpower loosen up for love, and then on the grip of power, then he comes back to focus again on power, and that's when he is away in a campaign, Shah Jahan, the news comes to him, Shah Jahan is dead. Even though Shah Jahan is not dead, he is sick in his palace. So now the contest begins to get the power throne. Fratricide has to happen, and Darasuko is in the palace. He doesn't want to go away like Jahangir was to away from the palace. He's not also a good military campaigner, and he's taking care of his dad. There was another brother who is in Gujarat. He hears also that father died, Shah Jahan. So he declares himself as an emperor, start marching on the capital. And Aurangzeb declares himself as the emperor, start marching. And they come. When the news reaches the capital, these guys are marching on the capital with the intent to take over power. Darasuko asks Shah Jahan, should I go and face them militarily? And Shah Jahan gives his blessing. Darasuko goes with the military of Shah Jahan, which is a mighty military, Mughal Emperor military. These guys have small forces. So Aurangzeb puts ties with the other brothers, saying like, let's join together forces against Darasuko. And they meet in a battle called Samurg. How do I spell it for you? Samugr. Samugar. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's 1658. We go to Harvard Library, you could see the painting of this battle, Samugar, 1658. In the battle, Aurangzeb's odds are very small of winning. Okay, Darasuko has a mighty military. Darasuko is in an elephant. His soldiers are rallying. Okay, but they are not battle hardened. Whereas Aurangzeb's soldiers are battle hardened. They have been fighting for a long time. Even though less in number, they are. One of the Uzbekistan commanders working for Darasuko tricks Darasuko, because remember, the nobles hate Darasuko because of Darasuko's arrogance. He tricks him by saying, oh, don't sit in the elephant. You might get hit by an arrow or something. Maybe you should switch to the horse. So Darasuko leaves the elephant in the thick of the battle and comes and sits in the horse. What happens when the soldiers who are fighting for Darasuko turns and looks at the king or a prince, and they couldn't find Darasuko? They thought he is killed, and they just loses the will to fight. It's a completely riot, and clearly Aurangzeb wins this, and Aurangzeb marches on the capital to take over power. Now Darasuko escapes back and goes and sees his father and tries to create peace with Aurangzeb by sending Jahanara. Jahanara comes, meets Aurangzeb outside the fort and talks to him, saying like, well, you guys could split the power among three of you brothers. But Aurangzeb said so no. And so Darasuko escapes, and Aurangzeb asks his father to open the fort. The father says, no, I'm not opening the fort. Then Aurangzeb cuts the water supply to the fort. At one point, Shah Jahan has to drink the water from the rainfall, because water supply from the river to the fort is cut. So he cannot have water, drinking water. He writes to his son, is this how you treat a father in Islam? You're a pious man. Is this how you do it? And he says, well, you could give it up. I'll treat you right. And then finally, he gives up Shah Jahan. He enters Aurangzeb and takes over power and sends men to find Darasuko. And guess what? He put Shah Jahan in a house arrest in a place where it's not far from Taj Mahal, where he built. So the last 7 years till he dies, Shah Jahan stays in that place in house arrest and looks at Taj Mahal longingly, thinking about his wife. And when he becomes too weak and not able to move his head, Jahanara is with him throughout, helping him, aiding him, puts a small mirror-like reflection so that he could see the reflection of Taj Mahal from the building through the window. Meanwhile, this Darasuko tries to go all the way to Afghanistan to get help. Remember, Humayun went all the way to Persia, Iran, to get help, to army to fight against Sher Shah. Similarly, this guy goes to Afghanistan, but he was caught in the Bolan Pass because of a treachery of a small king. That's a story you don't want in detail. He brings him back to Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb humiliates Darasuko, makes him, both Darasuko and his son was captured. Both were put on a small elephant, okay, tiny, weak elephant, dressed up in poor man's clothes. And paraded through the town. People in the town cry that because they loved Darasuko, even though the noble hated, Darasuko is is a soft man. They loud, they wean, they beat their chest and cry out loud. And this condition, because there was also a soldier put with sword. If Darasuka tries to run away from the elephant, supposed to kill the soldier. Slave's job is to kill Darasuka. When Darasuka and others marched throughout the procession, humiliating march, they were put in a cell. Finally, Darasuko was decapitated by Aurangzeb's men, and Darasuko's head was brought by Aurangzeb to Shah Jahan, who is grieving already this whole thing. The head is shown as a gift. Aurangzeb's cruelty was clear there, but at the time, fratricide, ya tucked, ya tucked up. There's another saying, cut or be cut. You cut or you will be cut. So now Aurangzeb takes over power after killing Darasuko fully. He is happy. He weighs himself in a scale, and equal amount of his weight, there was a gold to balance it, and that gold was distributed to poor people completely. And then he takes over power, and he's very, very meticulous administrator. He's obsessive and micromanager, which is bad. I'll talk about it. And what he does is, it flourishes because of the management style, that the revenue increases in his administration. Now, everything is going well, right? Now, he creates a fight. He because of his obsessive quality, and as he aged, he also stayed in power for almost 50 years, just like Akbar. As he got older and older, he got obsessive of more power, more administration, more places to conquer, new places. So he went into the Deccan region, Deccan Plateau, okay, which is the south, and started fighting one by one different kings. And one of the prime enemies of him from that time, which resonates in Indian history even now, with Indian politics now, is he fought the Maratha guerrilla warrior king. Guerrilla warrior, not this gorilla, Guerilla. That's hide and seek and fight, hit him and run. Guerrilla warrior king Shivaji, Shivaji. Shivaji is a Maratha king. Okay, if you go to India, Bombay, Mumbai, the train station is named after him, Chhatrapati Shivaji. And Shivaji and Aurangzeb fought for a long time. And finally, when Shivaji was captured, Aurangzeb put him in a prison. And Shivaji said, release me, I just want to go and be a Hindu monk. And Aurangzeb said, you want to be a monk? Why don't you convert to Islam? I'll give you lifetime payments as well. I will send you to Mecca for even Hajj. And he's like, no, I just want to be a Hindu monk. And he didn't release him. Finally, Shivaji escapes. Some scholars write it as in the camper of the dirty clothes laundry taken from the prison out. He escapes along, and they don't directly go to Maharashtra, Maratha Empire, because they will be looking for him. He dresses up in different ways, masquerade his face, and reaches finally and fights. Finally, when he reaches his kingdom, he fights along with his people against Aurangzeb's domination. But Aurangzeb names himself as Alamgir, Alamgir. What does that mean? Caesar of the world. Aurangzeb, Caesar, seizing of the world. Now, he sends money to the chief in Mecca, okay? And the Mecca chief, when he receives the money, he doesn't take it. He says he's not Alamgir, he's Pitagir. That means Caesar of the father. He took the power from the father, which is Islamic law. It's wrong. And Aurangzeb knows what he did is wrong, but his hands were tied. He thought his father was dead, and he marched on. The the war of succession started, the bloodbath began, and he ended up getting the power, taking the power over. So he knows he's not going to be forgiven by the chief of Mecca. Now, Aurangzeb goes to the Deccan and continues to fight and fight and fight, one by one, every small kingdom. He even came all the way to Tamil Nadu, which is the southernmost state where I am from, and fight. His military men started even dying of old age, but he's like in his 80, 90, and he's still fighting. He wants to go and see the battles on his own. He lives in this tent far away from the palace. This is a mistake. I want to give you the historical commonality. Okay, we talked about Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the guy, right? One of the Delhi sultanates. He also seized power from his father, just like Alamgir or Aurangzeb. And he also, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, moved his government to Daulatabad. Remember that? He also fought in the Deccan Plateau and wasted their life, the last decades of their life, just going for more and more power. And that completely emptied or weakened their treasury, because if you're continuously fighting, your revenues are all spent on war. And that weakened their empire, treasury, and through that their empire, both. And when Aurangzeb dies, the empire started debilitating and weakened and dismembered into different parts. You following? Okay. Now I want to talk about some 10 important points about Aurangzeb and his religious context, and we'll end the lecture. Why? Because Aurangzeb is considered as a bigot by modern Hindu politicians, Hindu BJP, the modern party politicians, and many say that Aurangzeb has killed Hindus, and destroyed Hindu temples. He's a Muslim fanatic. There are scholars who won't even return what if Dara Sukha would have been the king instead of Aurangzeb. He's tolerant of other religions. And so let's see, I read an entire book on just the religious dealings of Aurangzeb, historical, from Stanford professor Audrey Trusk. So first point, Aurangzeb, Audrey said, did not oversee thousands of Hindu temple destruction. Okay, yeah, here and there were temple destruction, but his empire was large. He didn't go and ask to destroy thousands of temple destruction. That's clear. Second one, he did not perpetrate any Hindu genocide. Okay, and he even appointed Hindu officials to top jobs in his administration. In fact, Raja Raghunath was his chief financial officer for the treasury. He provided safe roads and law and order for all people. And there was no Hindu bigotry, because the word Hindu itself was not how all the Hindus went by. This is a good, very clear argument, because Hindu word is a Persian word and it's not a Sanskrit. And so the Hindus went by, I am a Rajput, I'm a Brahmin, I'm a Maratha, like that. Different identities rather than as one monolithic Hindu. Only after the British came, they clubbed them all together as Hindu. So Aurangzeb cannot have this Hindu hatred, okay? And so he conquered many Muslim kingdoms too, not just Hindu kingdoms. That is political, okay? Muslim kingdoms or Hindu kingdoms, just political. Every kingdom did. And remember, he himself said, the Persian saying, being an ethical ruler is more important than conquering territory. So being ethical means being fair to all people, all his subjects, not just to Muslim subjects. Then why would they say that he has done? Yes, there are a couple of things he did. One thing, he brought back not killing Hindus or killing selectively Hindu temple destruction, but he brought back jizya, Jizya. Jizya means the tax on non-Muslims. which was not there in the Mughal period for 100 years. It was there before. And he brought back that. I mean, he's an obsessive man who is fanatic about administration, money, revenue. Okay, his weaknesses, what he lacked was vision. To be a great leader, you need great vision, imagination, okay, and action based on it. But he was more of a micromanager. He would have court twice a day, okay, and that's his weakness, one of the weakness, and micromanaging things and obsessive till old age waging wars. Those were his weaknesses. He even, next point, Hindus were rose in his administration. 31.6% of Mughal nobility were Hindus. Okay, from this time period 1679 to 1707, he had 31.6% Hindus nobility in Mughal Empire. If he would have thought of killing Hindus, he wouldn't give them the top noble jobs. He was very pious, abstained from drinking opium. So that's also gives him like a Muslim fanatic who doesn't, he's pious, right? That gives him the image. And yes, he cancelled Hindu or any type of music because of his religious piety, but never spearheaded Hindu conversion. Never spearheaded a Hindu conversion. In fact, next point, Holi, it is a Hindu celebration, was celebrated by Aurangzeb's own sons. Okay, and that was noticed by European travelers in India at the time, and they wrote about it. Own son. And so, if he was that obstinate, stubborn, he wouldn't have allowed his children to celebrate Holi. Hindu temples were built in his reign. Some Hindu temples were built as a form of, state prosperity. And this destruction of Hindu temples, I think I said it in previous lecture, happened in India since 7th century. You're talking about now 17th century. For almost 1,000 years, destruction, 7th century, Hindu emperors destroyed Hindu temples. That was part of political rather than religious reasons. Okay, so keep that in mind. If I ask you in exam 5 points to show Aurangzeb's religious views and his rule, I want you to write this. Okay, now go and make sure you look at the other lecture. Good luck. Thank you.